You ever wonder what these body mounts look like? They have a couple parts. This is a steel cup with kind of an oblong shaped center section. Then you've got this bushing. This is the top part of the bushing. It's got an oblong shaped slot. So that just goes in here like this. So that sits flush, and that goes down in the frame just like that. And then on the bottom, underneath the frame, this fits into this. So the frame is right here. This goes through the frame, meets up with that on the bottom. And this is just a hollow piece of rubber, nothing fancy there. All right, we're putting cab mounts in today. I got the upper portion in with the metal piece on top and the rubber piece underneath. And before I put this piece on the bottom up in there, there's an alignment thing that we need to look out for. So you don't just shove the bolt right up in that hole. You need to align. This other hole is here for a reason. The reason is because there's a hole up in the frame of the cab that needs to line up with that. And we can see right now, this one doesn't line up. So this cab is too far over that way. It needs to come this way. And if we look in the back, same thing, got the top mount on. You see there's a hole right there in the cab, and there's a hole under here in the frame. That's an alignment hole. It's right next to the mount itself. So if we look up in here, that hole doesn't line up. So what you can do is shove your socket extension right in there, and I can actually move the whole cab, but push on that. There. So I just moved the whole cab over a little bit. And now I can see it lines up pretty close, but not quite. The bolt still doesn't line up there. So it has to come back a little bit. Okay. I just moved the cab some more. Now that lines up pretty good. And now I can see threads for the bolt. So that's what we got to do on all four corners, is go around and line up these alignment holes. Let's see if the front one matches any better now. No, not quite. How about now? Kind of hard to do while holding the camera, but you get the point. You just need to get those alignment holes to line up straight. So here comes the fun part of this project. This bolt, I can run it all the way up in there until it stops and it gets tight. But all of these have a nut that goes up inside the frame. It's a captured nut. You can't see it. It's inside the frame. And a lot of times those nuts will just spin, so this will never get tight. And that's the case for 3 of the 4 body mounts that I have on this cab. Both of the 2 back ones spin, I get no traction, and then the front one up there on the passenger side is the same way. So what you need to do is you have to cut the floor. So in this one, you can see there's a 3-sided cut, and then the metal tab just bends up, and then later you can bend that back down and weld it. But this is that captured nut that I was talking about. All right, this is what we're talking about. See that? That's the problem. It's problem number 1. It's weird, this LED light is making a black bar through my screen. So that's problem number one. Number two is this is a 7/16 bolt, which will thread into that hole. Threads in kind of loosely, but it threads in there. So if you're threading this in from the bottom and you can't see that nut or that square thing, you might get tricked into thinking that's a 7/16 bolt, but it's not. I was thinking that those were 7/16, but actually they're halves. So one size bigger. Back here in the back, you need to cut this open somewhere. And the problem is, how do you find where those bolts come up through? So I've seen a lot of people take a tape measure under here and try to measure across and stuff. But what I do is I just take a long screwdriver, put it through the hole underneath, and just give it a few taps, and you end up with this, a bump. So that bump tells me exactly where the nut is underneath there. Just like this. Take my long Phillips head screwdriver, put it right up through the body mount. That'll go right through the nut that's up in there. That's what these ones look like in the back. Gotta have at least a little bit of bare metal to weld to. Okay, check this out. Driver's side front. There's a threaded plate thing up in there. The hole's lined up, but I try to screw the bolt in there. That thing just won't screw in. It feels like it's cross-threading, but I'm pretty sure it's not. It's going in there straight. So normally when I have threads that are kind of messed up, what I would do is run a tap through that. But since that is way up in there, inside the body, and I can't get a tap up in there, what the heck am I going to do? Well, I got an idea. It's worked for me before. I'll show you. So basically just cut a couple of grooves in there so that can go in and try to cut those threads a little bit, clean them out. If there's rust or debris in those threads, it should help to clean it out. It's pretty rusty up in there. Let's try the normal bolt now. I can't tighten it by hand. I can at least turn it with the wrench now. So when this is all said and done, I got all the body mounts on top and bottom and all the bolts tightened up, all the alignment holes aligned, and inside, I didn't show this, but I just put a couple tack welds on each one of those square nuts inside there, and then bent the panel back down and welded it, put some paint over it. Same thing back here in the back. And then most importantly, all four of the alignment holes are lined up now. So when I bolt the fenders on and the doors on and the box and everything, all of that stuff should line up. If you get this wrong, the cab part, where the alignment holes don't line up and you get your cab on crooked, nothing else is going to line up after the fact. So you really got to make sure you get that part right. So that'll be it for this video. See you in the next one.